Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And Jaime and Fuego here, guys. And gracias for joining us once again for another review here in 2016. One that we did a trailer reaction for quite a while back.
Yeah.
And we actually got a little bit of feedback from a couple of the producers, I believe, saying thanks for doing the reaction. We've been meaning to do an actual review for this film for quite a while since we did that reaction, pretty much.
Indeed. As we hit the end of 2015, right, it was showing up on more and more lists of best of the year. So we felt it was finally time to check it out. And this film is We Are Still Here, which is written and directed by Ted Geoghegan. It's a very intricately spelled name, lots of G's and H's beside one another, so apologies if I'm butchering it. But it had a very 70s Stephen King type vibe to it, at least in my estimation. You've got this couple, and they're presumably moving from a larger city to a more rural area, and their son has just passed away, dealing with grief differently. They're both drinking, they're both depressed, but they're not spending the time together. They're in isolation, and that's apparent from the get-go. But there's much more to not just this house, but this town completely than, you could even scratch the surface with initially. So tone-wise, it was pretty serious. Not a lot of humor, a lot of stuff I've seen and liked in 2015. It injected both. This was somber. What did you guys think?
Yeah, definitely a more serious, somber tone, and it's interesting. You explained the plot well, especially the first half of the movie. But what was interesting is as we were watching it, we weren't understanding exactly what was going on. It was a little bit of decoding we had to do. And it was definitely a slow to start movie.
The trailer kept it pretty vague too.
Yeah, and it took its time easing you into the film. Some might say a little bit too slowly, but I actually think it got going pretty quickly with setting up scares and doing a couple of shadows in the background and things like that. So I was kind of on board right away.
Gave that taste of kind of a slow build, but once it got roaring, you smell smoke throughout the entire, the cast members do, they smell smoke throughout the entire movie, and once this got burning and going, the fires just kept spreading, and I think the performances, while kind of wooden at first when they were grief-stricken, once the full scope of what they knew they had on their hands, when they were realizing, okay, there's a presence in this house, and maybe it's not just who we think it is, and that's not spoiling too much. But Barbara Crampton, she was the wife of the husband when they first moved in, and grief-stricken, the Sechettis, I believe they were, husband and wife, and so they've lost their son. And Barbara Crampton, she was kind of like the love of Mr. Stuart Gordon in the 80s there for a little bit. She starred in Reanimator. Right after that, she did From Beyond, eventually Castle Freak too. And so, she is kind of considered one of those 80s scream queens, and I thought she was pretty solid. And then
I thought she looked really familiar. I know that
she's
face.
been in a lot of genre
I
stuff.
didn't even realize.
Yeah. And then you've also got as her friend, who she invites, Lisa Marie, who was married to Tim Burton for like 10 years almost, and was in Lords of Salem, I think. She was also in Mars Attacks. She's been in tons of stuff. So the women, while the guys did good, I felt like the women really kind of brought it, pretty well in this film, at least as far as performances go.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the friend, actually, the guy friend.
He did an excellent.
He was really
good. Especially one scene in particular.
Yeah, we won't spoil that scene, but
we'll save that for the spoilers.
It's he was definitely really good, and as I mentioned it actually during the movie to these guys because I was so happy with it because the main couple, yes, they were grief-stricken, and yes, they were sort of dealing with things a little bit more isolated from each other, but what I mentioned was that it felt like a real relationship. Like it was neat. In a lot of movies, they choose to focus on younger relationships, like first married couples or teens, and all that drama in some of the teen slasher movies and stuff. Rarely do you get a movie that's focusing on a couple that's a little bit more advanced in their years.
Which is another reason why I made the King connection, because lots of his post-2000s work is about, the aging couple, because him and his wife have been together for decades. I think this even took place in the New England area. It was beautifully shot. The snow added an element of just dread and ominousness too, like the counterbalance of the heat inside and the cellar being like 100-something degrees, and then outside it's completely covered in snow. It was an interesting dichotomy, and it
was another mystery to be explained. Which the movie did, take its time doing.
Touch back about their relationship. Not only were they an older couple, but they were a successful relationship. Most of the time when you see a trauma in a family, especially loss of a child, the relationship falls apart. They're more selfish about their own feelings than they are working together. And it was so cute, like how powerful their relationship was is that they you could see in the husband and like, I think you're a little crazy, but I'm going to support you. We're going to do this anyways.
It wasn't perfect, obviously, but what relationship that's been going for that long is. You learn to accept each other's faults. Like, hey, I already called them and let them know that to come on down. So
Right. I just, want to comment like that. That was really cool to see, is that they didn't have a torn apart family. They were going through a depressed time, but it wasn't the cause.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was well written, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. The writing was good on it. It was appropriately mysterious. It was a little frustratingly so at the beginning, but it started to iron out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into then the setting, because the actors start off in this house and then they travel into town for sort of a brief scene.
It's also a period piece, which is something.
It is. Yeah. It was 1979. Yeah. Yep. And
love the cars and just the attire and the way the house looked.
The way it was filmed had that overall feel too.
Well, I mean, what was it that Dave said? We had a friend briefly sitting in who saw a little bit of it, a few frames, and he was like, "Oh, it's kind of Kubrick-esque."
Yeah.
Just the stillness and just that eerie
and the slow movements to show environments and things like that.
A lot of stills on the set design, not a lot of, in the beginning it wasn't a lot of like human interaction. It was just the empty shots of the house, which
and the woods around it and stuff like that.
I liked it. I just thought it was a little long, but
and no dialogue either. It really just tried to drive home that point of just the stillness of sadness,
setting up atmosphere.
Right.
And it did that well.
Yeah, and the house definitely looked like an appropriate. And I like houses that they can kind of move around in, and it doesn't matter that you don't know exactly where they are in the house. You don't get lost with them moving through, but it still feels authentic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
which it did.
It felt like a house during that time period.
Yeah. So location was well picked and well utilized, I think.
Indeed.
Especially the basement area. The basement area was cool.
Which is where we see some things.
And then honestly, later on, the main area of the house becomes a pretty awesome. Let's just say the set decorators. Yeah, the set decorators had some fun towards the end of the movie.
They did an amazing job. I love it. And I think the overall feel of the movie I really liked, because coming from small towns, you always have that house.
You're kind of familiar with that area, Marcia.
Well, like when you come from a small town, there's always like that house that has that ghost backstory, whether it's a house or an old hospital or whatever it may be. And it's very believable, like in that kind of community, that you would have those sort of reactions with somebody moving into a place like that. And I think they did a really good job conveying that.
Yeah.
People have for generations, whether it was King or Lovecraft or Poe or the ominous house. I mean, this was an effective job at putting one of those together, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's go ahead and move into the music and the sound design and stuff like that. What did you guys think of how that? I thought the sound design was great. There's specifically, so we alluded to it a little bit. There's a spirit aspect to it, and then there's with the temperature and stuff. There's a fiery sort of heat aspect to it, and at one point the heat is used to convey movement of something, like a and that, without, again, I'm trying to avoid spoilering.
The way they were peering back and forth, so it was almost like a left foot, a right foot.
Yeah,
it was really,
really well done.
It's those kind of little touches from something like that to even not on the sound side, the little trickle of blood on the camera or something, or that little swirl effect that was done at one point, which almost left to the imagination what happens to a particular character. There was, not just on the sound side, but on the visual side as well. I felt like it was a very, I don't want to say too artsy or too art house, pretentious indie, but it put some tricks in and kept it fresh with a concept that could have grown stale with someone else.
No, I agree. I agree.
The two parts definitely communicated very well, and you could totally tell they were very in sync, and it really made an excellent combination.
No, I agree. And then
back to the soundtrack.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
the
saying.
Soundtrack. Yeah,
the music was great.
Yeah, they used some time appropriate songs at moments, and then the actual score was fitting, and it augmented all the right things.
It had that 70s-ish hippies 10 years later, but still haunted with certain things from the past type vibe to it. It was just that slight ominousness, but a little bit of sunny cheer too. It was weird.
Yeah, and then I think we need to talk about the effects.
Yeah.
There was
How
not.
much can we say without
There was
alluding
very
to
little.
it?
Well, we can talk about how we liked them. There was not much by way of CG.
No.
Just maybe a little bit of augmentation here and there, but it was
Add a
largely
little bit of flair.
mostly practical.
Yeah.
And it was really well done. Like there was
Very
some
much so.
cool stuff that happened, and I was just like, whoa! Like I was not. The trailer didn't let on at all to this
Was not
kind of.
expecting.
The
Lots of
trailer-
violence towards the end. We
Yeah.
can say that much.
The trailer stayed, the film stayed as mysterious as the trailer, at least through the first third of it, I'd say. You know.
They did a lot of cool things because at one point the town sort of gets together and is trying to force the people into staying in the house.
Right.
And I'm not telling why, and I'm not telling how or anything like that.
That's in the
So
spoilers.
That's
so
in the
please
spoiler
check
section.
that out.
But it does happen, and it does play a large role in the third act of the film. And there's a lot of really, really cool stuff that happens. I mean, we can say that there's death in this movie. There's lots of. It's a horror movie,
Right.
and it's even more of a horror movie than the trailer lets on. I think.
I think
Like
so
the
too.
trailer only gave you a very they don't even really let on how violent this movie gets at parts.
It was much more graphic than I expected.
Right.
Is a good way to describe it.
Right.
I was like, possessed house
Yeah.
and ghosts or whatever, and that's the thing. There's actually a lot more going on with the evil here than
You don't
we can
you
talk
don't think
so.
about having that much violence in a ghost movie,
Yeah.
like an actual non Scooby-Doo ghost movie.
Right.
So
Right, and that's
I
what's
enjoyed
nice
it.
too. It didn't. It was a supernatural movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That I love when they don't like.
And they leave it
crumble
slightly
on that.
ambiguous too, though. You know, they don't spell it out and beat you over the head with it.
Yeah.
you know,
No,
or-
and it has a good ending. I was
Yeah.
happy with the
yeah,
ending.
I was very satisfied too.
Yeah, yeah.
I think all the way through, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would mark it as go see.
Yeah,
I
definitely
think
check it out if you haven't yet. We know it's been available for a little while, guys, but we just got around to it. And if you're like us and you just hadn't checked it out yet, let this be the tipping point because it's worth it.
It
And
really
just-
is. It's on those top lists
Yeah.
for a reason, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Give it
You
a
know, and
chance.
it's a good thing we watched it before we did our
Yeah,
top
I
list.
think
so-
mine might be shuffling just a slight bit.
just a slight bit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. I think that pretty much covers it. Any final words on We Are Still Here? That's non-spoilery before we jump over into the real juicy goodness.
I'd say stick with it. Don't give up in the first 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just let it. Just experience it.
Let it
Just
build
in.
its atmosphere the
Let
way
it
it
do
needs
its work.
to.
Let it do its job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Trust the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Trust in the movie.
Yeah, and as a big fan of Stephen King, I must say, if you're a fan of his work, you will probably really enjoy this. I think even King himself commented about how much he liked this movie.
It doesn't surprise me. It did have a very King-y vibe, except a less disappointing ending.
Oh, he's hating on my dude. Love you,
Ah.
Stevie.
No, I love Stephen King too, but the spider at the end of it.
He's not perfect. No one ever said he was. But, in
But
any
anyway,
event,
this was an excellent movie, you guys. Check it out. We Are Still Here. I don't know. I don't think it's available on Netflix, but it is available on demand
It's
and
not
on
streaming
DVD
on
and stuff
Netflix,
like that.
no.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
but it has
so
its home release.
it is on the DVD for a Netflix DVD though. So it's worth paying $10 for a month of that, or $15 for a month of that, just to get this movie.
Yeah.
So check it out, guys. Thanks for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
Gracias, Abenjamin Fuego, and until next time, remember,
Stay
scared. We'll put you in the cell.